Okay. All right, I got a friend and mentor named Willie Langston. Probably many of you know him. And he was asked to speak on a particular occasion, and it wasn't just any occasion. He was asked by the senior pastor of a very large church to preach on Tithe Sunday. Now, Willie runs a financial advisory firm, and literally every day of his life, he asks people for money. He's asked people for money day in, day out for the better half of 30 years. And so he called out, he said, "Oh God, oh Lord, please don't ask me to make me ask people for money on Sunday, and especially on Money Sunday." And that's Tithe Day. For those that aren't Baptist in the room today. That's pledge. We tell them how much you're going to give for the year. And so when John Thompson, called me and said, "Hey, Brett, would you think about, speaking at Toolbox?" I didn't respond. And I got the second call, and I was still hiding. And so finally, I called about it. I called him back. I said, "I tell you what, I've been thinking about this. I love democratic capitalism. So let me talk about democratic capitalism, and I'll juxtapose that against God's eternal economy, and that'll just be great. I love those topics. I can be passionate about those." And he goes, "Okay, sounds great. Great. Get with Tom, and September the 13th. And so I get back in town after the summer. I sit down with Tom. I tell him about my great idea, my outline, and where I wanted to go, and he just looks at it. "No, that's really not what we're looking for at Toolbox. We're really looking for you to just tell your story, to talk about how faith entered in and developed or impacted your business over the last, 27 years. And I'm like, "Oh, man, I talk about Moody National 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, it seems like. I talk about how great we are to all our investors, to all our potential investors, to all their lawyers, all the accountants, anybody who will listen. We tell you how great Moody National is day in and day out. And the last thing I want to do on the planet is sit up here and tell my friends in the room, and those of you that I'm not yet friends with that I would like to be, to sit here and tell you about Moody National." I think that was the most difficult thing to get my arms around, because I just didn't want to do it. I'm not pitching y'all today, and I don't want to pitch you, and I don't want to tell you about Moody National. But the Lord is so good, and I tell you, I'll just start with this. I had one of the most stressful nights last night. One of our portfolios is a hotel portfolio, and I don't know if y'all know, we had something called a pandemic. And we're not in the luxury end, so we weren't on the beach where everybody was flocking to. We were in business hotels, which were flat out empty. So it was a rough couple of years through the pandemic, and we're still working through some of those growing pains. And so I was working through some of those last night and thinking about today. And on the way in, we were talking with the guys. We have a prayer call every morning at 8:45. We have a prayer call for our team. And we were going over some of the stories, and I'm telling you, I literally started to weep on one of my worst night's sleep, on one of my worst opportunities to get up and share what I don't want to share. The Lord had me go through all the incredible mountains that He's moved and all the doors that He opens that were closed over the last 27 years. And I got to run through that, and it was just, I was blown away. And so I will try to be quick. I'm going to talk as quickly as I can so we can have some Q&A time, and then I can tell you all the great things that the Lord has done at Moody National over 27 years, and we won't even scratch the surface, okay? After numerous bad decisions in my 20s, I wound up in Houston working as an analyst at the Duncombe Mortgage Group for Gary Duncombe, making about $18K a year. Now, I have to back up 1 second, and I'll stand over here to tell you this. Ooh, okay? I can assure you, okay, just active if I'm standing over there, okay? I've got feedback. I can assure you that I am the least qualified person to ever take this stage at Toolbox. I just hands down. I'm a conundrum, I can tell you that. I have 0 degrees. I played in 0 national sports leagues. I've climbed 0 mountains, Mount Everest. Haven't done that, you know. So I'm just telling you, I've got no amazing skills, nada, nothing. All I got is my story. And it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's all I have for you. So I don't have any accolade that I wish I could tell you about, you know, that the Lord somehow did something great in there. He did a lot of great things, and just none of them are published. How about that? So anyway, I can assure you that. And so here I am as an analyst in 1994, and not a very good one. And at that. And so I knew that they were about to make me a production officer. So I could go out and do deals. And so I was making $18K a year. And I figured, all right, I'm going to be a production officer. If I do one $2 million loan a year, commercial real estate is what I'm in, if you didn't know. And if I did one $2 million deal, I'd make $20,000 if I went out on my own. And I said, wow, I'm done really good at math, but that's like more than 10% more than I'm making now. I said, if I do 2 deals, I can make 40 grand and I can go to seminary. I always wanted to go to seminary. And if I did 3 deals and made 60 grand, dude, that is a white picket fence in Katy, seminary, start the church, the whole cheese right there. So that was the goal. And so I went to see a mentor of mine, and I wish you'd circle mentor, because discipleship is so important that people have poured into my life, and I'm so blessed. Willie was up front there. And so I went to see a mentor of mine, not Willie this time, and I said, hey, I really want to go out and start my own gig. And he said, well, you got to be loyal. Number one, you got to be loyal to Gary, because I was basically unhireable when Gary hired me. So it was a great opportunity he gave me. I said, check, I've got that. I'm never, ever going to call on a client of the Duncan Mortgage Group. And then number 2, you got to be sure that you're emotionally healthy and ready to go through the stress that you're about to go through. I said, gotcha. And the third one, he says, make sure you're financially ready. Okay, and I didn't have a penny to my name. And I said, okay, I'll wait on that one. So I went home that night. God, I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm going to start saving my money so I can go out and start this new company. So I walk in the next day, and he's on the phone with somebody, and they said, well, you know, we've given her a title and a big job and all this, and I would hope she'd be happy with that. He goes, well, I got to talk to you later. He said, and Gary said, Brett, I told you, if it was ever you or her, which was my boss, he said, it had to be you, because I can't live without her. And so the next day, he gave me my walking papers. He actually said, go down and talk to her and see if you can talk her out of it. And I went down, and it was not going to work. And we had a difference of opinion in my skill set and my highest and best use. And she was correct, by the way. I was not. And she deserved a better analyst. So Gary had put me under her. And so out the door. So I was out the door. If you've ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire, I'm telling you, it came out right in there. And I was Jerry Maguire. Has everybody seen that movie? So here I am. There's no goldfish bowl. There's no Renee Zellweger. There were just laughs and snickers as I walked out the door with my new deck of cards for $9.99 at the print shop. And they laughed as I walked out. They were very, very good to me, but it was kind of comical. Back then, the big correspondent relationships with big lenders, you couldn't start a startup. So I go down, I get the Best Buy computer. You had a year to pay for it. So you could buy it, no interest, pay for it in a year, just like Mattress Mac. And so I did that, got an answering machine. I'm either on the phone or away from my dinette, but if you'll call me back, I'll go get a loan for you. And so I started. And I'll never forget, I made one call. I was stopped in it was in Las Colinas at the Comfort Inn. And I stopped in there. I said, man, this is a really nice hotel. I said, I could put a loan on this. I found out who the owner was, and I called Amrit and Bharat Patel, and I said, I'd love to put a loan, and here's what I can do on that property. And they were very excited, and they said, you have to call our friend Chan Patel. Chandrakant is his name. He was the founder and president of State Bank of Texas there in Dallas. And so I called Chan and told him what I do. He goes, listen, I have 4 hotels. If you'll do my 4 and you do what you say you're going to do, I'll give you all of my bank clients and you can take all their loans out and I'm going to make them new loans and you can take them out and we'll just have a wonderful partnership. So here I am. I'm off and running, and I closed Chan's first 4 deals. And of course, I was dead broke, right? I'll never forget, my Bank of America ATM automated teller was telling me all through the night, all 32 times that I called it, that I had $94,000, $586.64. And I said, man, I'd go to bed, I'd say, it's a dream, it's a dream. I'd call back, $94,354. Whew, it's real. I mean, I'm telling you, I didn't believe it for like 3 days that I actually had that in the bank account. And so it was off and running, gangbusters. I had no credit. I was going around to these AHOA, Asian American Hotel Owners events. And it'd be like an event like this, and I would grab the MC, like Thomas, the MC, and I'd say, hey, can I just introduce myself? Here's $100. He goes, yeah, you have 1 minute. I'm Brett Moody with Moody National Companies, and like to make you a loan on your hotel today. And so I'd go around to all these, and literally for $100 do that. I took out all these full-page ads and of Moody Equal Money, and it was off and running. I was busy as could be, and we did 46 or 7 deals that first year, and then 1998 turned, and it was just, I was stacked to the brim. I had 50 or 60 deals in the pipeline. It was pretty amazing. And I said, Lord, you know, I was just wanting to do 1 or 2 or 3 of these and go to school. I'm saying, is this the world or the enemy trying to attract me with success and keep me out of my focus of going to school and starting a church and all that? And the Lord was clear as a bell. He says, I want you to be faithful to what I put on your plate. And that's what he said. I want you to be faithful to what I put on your plate. It was clear to me. So I put my head down, started doing deals, I wanted to expand as a startup does. And so we're spending all our money for marketing, and the deals were coming in. And then October of 1998 happens. So 10 years before the other recession. So 98, if y'all remember the Russian bond market crash, the Asian contagion, and the Brazilian real, and Wall Street, almost like a mall at 9 o'clock. Bam, 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 bam. Every place was shut down. And I had all my money was in that pipeline of closings to get back in because I was spending it to grow. And I had been broke before, but I sure didn't want to be there again. And so I took my hard case. Remember the big hard cases, golf clubs, you take them in, the big hard case? So I put about 40 or 50 deals in that hard case that all got killed by Goldman Sachs in one day. And I went to Wall Street, and it's really Midtown. And I went to Bear Stearns, UBS, Merrill Lynch, Payne Weber, everybody. And finally, Payne Weber, Avenue of Americas, right there. You can imagine, I'm sitting there in the middle of this October, walking down the street with my bag. I go in, I said, now, please don't sign these deals if you cannot close them. Because I'm giving you my last pennies to all these deals. And they said, we'll take 9 of them. So I gave them like 45 grand, and I went home, and 3 weeks later, they killed them all. And I was like, ugh. And so I had about 11 employees at the time, and so I had to kind of shed back. I was back to me and the dog and start over. And so I said, okay, this time I'm going to diversify. I'm not going to roll all my cash in. So 99, I'm into 98, 99, start doing better again, making a little money. And of course, I had every .com you could ever imagine. I think I watched DoubleClick go from $2.54 to $2.54. And so, but I was a really brilliant day trader for a day. And then it happened, right? And then boom, 2000 happened, and all my diversification was not very well diversified. So I read this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. He said, some of all you make is yours to keep. Y'all probably heard that before, some of all you make. So I said, all right, this time I'm going to take a little bit off the table, and then I'm going to put it in a deal. I'm going to put it in a real estate deal, something I know. And so I started buying some little condominiums, and I was approaching my largest deal I was ever going to do, but I was getting married. And it was a wild deal. It was my first $100 million deal. So it was going to be a big deal for me. And it was back when the banks, and I just saw one of the bankers that used to work at that company, so I will not name the name to protect the guilty. And so they would give you like 95%. They'd give you like 85% senior loan, and they give you another 10 or 15% on top of that. So they give you 95%, but you had to come up with a 5%. So I had a client, and I said, well, I'm going to charge you a point. He didn't really have much money. I said, I'll structure this deal for you, and I'll get you in a couple $1 million. And so we get it all structured. I charged him $1 million for the 95 fee. I charged him a mezzanine, like another $1 million. And then we were going to close on the 5th day of the month, so we were going to get all the rent. And so we got all the rent in. We were going to use that for the down payment, the credit. And so we had it all lined up, and he had about $800,000 in. And so we're going to close, and it's going to be on my honeymoon. I tell my wife, I said, Amy, I said, I've got to close this deal. I said, we can go on a honeymoon after, and it can be a really nice one. We can go anywhere you want to go. But I'd really like to close. She goes, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's just going to take like one day. And so we're in Hawaii. I get up at 5 a.m. on my computer because it's, 8 o'clock back in New York. And we're going all day long. And I went to like 3 o'clock that day. She was a matter in a wet hen, and it wasn't closed yet. And then throughout that deal, I kept telling them, hey, I want you to know, don't be surprised that I'm over half of the equity that they're putting in. Well, don't show that, because I didn't have the management company and I didn't have the resume. And so I took him. I said, what do you want me to do? And he goes, bury him in the limited partnership. And the limited partnership can collect the fee at a different name, blah, 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 blah. I said, I'll do whatever you say. That's the way I'll structure it. So we get to the closing table, and he goes, hey, we can't close today. I said, why not? He said, because he only wired $67,000. And I said, yeah, that sounds right. He goes, well, where's all the $5 million equities of it? Well, there was my fee there, there was my fee there, there was my fee there, and we did this, and I was on the golf course with Les Chorba. I didn't tell him this. Many of you know Les Chorba. And he was telling me about a new assignment he had, and I said, because they place executives. And I said, well, what happens if they don't stay? Do you have to give them the money back? He goes, no, we get a credit. I said, so when you hire him, you pay? He goes, no, we get paid up front at the assignment. And I said, see that assignment there? That's the assignment I have to do the takeout in a year from now, and I'm getting paid up front for it, just like a headhunter. And so we structured that. The guy said he wasn't going to close. I said, this is the way you told me to do it. I'm going to come back from my honeymoon, and I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to show him all of our emails. And so an hour later, he funded. And that was our first $100 million deal. And I had some money to go invest in a real estate deal. My wife was angry. We ended up staying another year. And then I said, that'd be the last time, hopefully, that I ever do that for a client. I'd like to come back and do it at Moody for Moody. And so that was kind of our first start into trying to structure deals. And it was just amazing how the Lord set that up. We had a piece of dirt over in the medical center that we really wanted to purchase. And Happy, his first name was Happy. He built the first 4-story over podium on 2400 McHugh. If y'all know where McHugh is, right there it runs into the Galleria. And so we had looked at this dirt. We had seen that 4-story. And I said, let's go do that. Let's see if we can do that. And so we closed that deal. I think they were about to keep our earnest money, and we were able to buy that deal, and that was kind of our first multifamily deal. So we began to develop. We wanted to add and vertically integrate, and so we added a development company to our real estate company and our mortgage company, and then we added a title company, and then we added an insurance company, and then we added kind of a renovations company to renovations. So we had this circle. We call it the circle of strength. But it was not long, and this happened back in the apartment, that we put 5 core values on the plate. And I'm so thankful. We got these day one. And the first one was that Moody National was a gift of God, and the number one thing that we wanted to accomplish was to glorify God in all we did. That was number one. Number 2 is that we knew that the people spend a majority of their waking hours going to, from, or at work. And so it needs to be a place that builds you up and grows you. It needs to make you a better husband, a better wife, a better friend, a better sister, a better brother. not to drain you from your outside relationships, but build up and grow. And that was really, really important to us. And then the third was that we would give back our first fruits. That of some of all we made, we would give back our very first fruits. And we hire Muslims and Hindus and atheists and everybody, but I want them to know that our profit is going to build the kingdom of Jesus Christ. And that's what we're going to do. And so we put that in place. We also wanted to create sustainable members of society. So if somebody came and they had 4 children and $1,000, $2,000 rent, we couldn't pay them the job at $10 an hour. They needed to go somewhere that they were going to get free housing with their job. And so we tried to make a good fit for that. And then the number 5, if we would glorify the Lord, grow and develop our associates, give back our first fruits, and develop self-sustaining members of society that would reflect well on themselves, us, and the Lord. That number 5, we could make a profit. And so that was about the first time that we were making a profit that was really that we were going to take off the table. And so we began to partner. We partnered with Maria's Big House of Hope, which saved medically challenged children that were orphans. We actually brought 2 home. Peter and Boone are my youngest 2 children. I have 6. And it's all about my wife's skill set. She has a lot of skills, and she's really good. And I'm blessed. And so we began to do that. Every village in Africa, providing water wells. Many of you probably are part of that. We were Ananias House in Turkey, and then in the inner city, Agape in Yellowstone, and some of our ministries. So we call that the Circle of Love. So everybody at the company was involved in seeing all these great things. We built in India, and as our own, a school there for girls that were saved from the red light district. And when I say saved, I mean the moms would take them out from under the cot that they were doing their business and give them to us to take. And we raised them as our own. And one of the first ones that came in just graduated Houston Christian University with a master's degree. So from underneath the bed. Is that not, man, I'm telling you, it's all God. All God. It's just so funny that he did this. And I mean, just broke, and then he'd pick us back up, and then boom, we would fall, and then he would just pick us back up. And every time we were learning something different. I'll never forget, we were in front of a crowd like this, and somebody was pitching somebody's product, and I went, man, that was the worst, it's kind of the worst pitch I've ever heard. Do our people sound like that? I was asking Logan Lee, one of our executive vice presidents, and he goes, I don't know. I said, well, we need to find out. So we formed something called Iron Night. And so we would set one of our associates up on the stand, and we would all get out there, and we would get like tennis balls and all kinds of things, and we'd say, okay, pitch us the product, tell us the product. And as iron sharpens iron, every time they would make a mistake or fudge or exaggerate, we would hammer them. And I'll tell you, after a few years of that, I'll kid you not, one guy, Nick Kareem from California, got up and told the Moody story, and I stinking wept. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Kareem the Dream, we call him. He's so good. But I say that because out of getting sharpened at work, we have this discipleship group I do on Tuesday nights for high school guys. It's a 2-year run. And we're about to start our 8th year, our 7th and 8th year. So we've done 6 years. And it's called Iron Nights. And they are the Iron Knights. And it's been a great thing. And that's the way, Tom, we've just come out of our business and into the kingdom. But we know that it's the kingdom that was building us. It was the Lord that was growing us and holding us up all along the way. And so we thought we were accomplishing something. We were on our way. It was real excited. And then October of 2008 hit, and it was a nightmare. I just purchased a large pipeline, a $400 million portfolio of hotels. I'd syndicated 200 of it, and I had 200 left, and had $137 million on debt on it. And the bank it's called now. And I'm like, I don't have any money. He said, we don't care. Go find it. And I'm like, but I don't have that. And they said, you better get it quick. You got like 30 days. And I was banging on every door on the planet trying to get the money. And then they came back and said, and we'll sell it to you for $61 million. So they were I said, $200 million in assets. and 137 million debt, and they were going to sell me the note for 61 million, and I couldn't beg, borrow, cry my way into 1 million at the time. It was just the craziest thing. And so we somehow, in like 30, maybe it took 45 days, Alex he's in the room, he can tell, and we sold 3 properties to one group and 4 properties to another group, and in 4 days, and we bought that portfolio back with just selling a few properties. And then, so that was, the Lord had saved us for a day. Now, we still had a ton of money, and we were upside down. The biggest thing I remember, Thomas, about 2008 was 971 conference calls in 2008 and 2009 with, dozens and dozens and dozens of investors on each one of those calls. But it was a nightmare. And I tell you, we would have never made it, and then Harvey comes. And we have this thing called BI, business insurance, and I don't know how, but it was the greatest policy on the planet. We got like, here's $5 million just to get you started. And we were like, man, we can make payroll. And it was the craziest thing in the world that we hit. We were so over leveraged, and we were full on growth. We had this pipeline, and we were syndicating deals, and they couldn't keep them on our shelf. They were flying off so fast. We were syndicating them out. And it just all blew up, just again. And I'm like, man, Lord, I have been here before. And but this time I had a whole mess of people. We were maybe up to about 1,200 at the time, and people. And I'm like, what are we going to do? And man, it was one miracle after another. I couldn't even tell you. Just one after another, after another, after another. A storm where we get a $5 million check. And then we get up, we kind of start making it through it again, and then if a pandemic doesn't happen, and probably the largest part of our portfolio in 2020 was hospitality. And hospitality took it on the chin. And guys, I stand here today, maybe a couple more minutes here, of saying it is impossible to do the math on almost any one of those recessions. It's just impossible math. I look back, I have no idea how we are open today after 17 months of no mortgage payment to any of our lenders. We had 15 loan mods in our REIT that we operate. We had a loan mod on almost every property that we owned. And I don't know if y'all have had a loan modification before, but I mean, a few days in jail might be easier. It is really, really painful with no anesthesia. And so anyway, we spent 17 months working through those loan mods. We did our loan mods, and then it's just amazing that today we still have some pains from that. But when they asked me to tell this story, I didn't want to do it. And I know it's on camera, and I'm sorry. You just got the down and dirty about how vulnerable we were over all of these years. But I'm telling you, we're all vulnerable. But we have an awesome, awesome, gracious God that's at the helm. And he has been there for us every step of the way. And I tell you, it's just absolutely amazing. I was thinking about all the things that I don't have, and I was thinking how good that the Lord has been to us. And, and he didn't have any degrees, and they called him teacher. And he didn't have any slaves, and they called him master. He didn't have any medicines, and they called him healer. He didn't have an army, but kings feared him. He had never won a military battle, but he had conquered the world. He committed no crime, but they crucified him for it. And then they put him in a tomb, but he lives. And he lives today, and he is so active in our company from head to toe, on the business side, on the ministry side. He just every single day, he has blessed us. So if you're just starting out in the room today, and I just tell you, if you'll put him worst deal I ever did, best deal I ever did, okay, right? Worst deal I ever did, just sitting in a room in 2008, and I clear as a bell, I know the Lord said, sell everything. This is crazy, sell it. I called the broker, number one broker in the country, he literally was, said, how long to sell our entire portfolio? He said, yeah, marketing, the books, the packages, 9 months. I said, that takes too long. And hung up and went on about my merry way. I did not listen to how I was told clearly to sell everything. And I knew the Lord was instructing me. We have the Holy Spirit within us. And I knew that he was instructing me to do it, and I didn't. And the best deal I ever did is, in the very beginning, maybe you can see it. No logo up there. That's good. Is we put the cross in front of us. It goes before us, and it holds us up. And I just promise you that we're just trying to be faithful to what he's called us to do in the marketplace. And we have the greatest team on the planet. I'm so blessed. I think our average executive's been there 15 plus years. Means a lot of 20s and some 10s. And really, really blessed to have a great team. And we get to go in the marketplace every day and do our best to bring him glory because he's the only one that deserves it. None of us that have been at Moody for 20 years can take the credit for what he has done for us. So I'm here to tell you that today. So that's all I got. I mean, I'd go wild. You know, living in this neighborhood, I was at the time in Tanglewood. I mean, I don't know if you know, that's a crazy wealthy place to live. If you're in this room today, you're crazy wealthy compared to the rest of the world. And so I didn't know if I was supposed to come out of that. And the Lord was like, bloom where you're planted. And so I had decided, okay, I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to pay these hefty taxes that we have to pay. And I'm going to get after it. And then he told me, be faithful with what I put on your plate.
Yeah, I love that. Clear. I mean, that's one of those things that travels table to table, career to career, family to family, being faithful to what's on your plate. So let me ask you another question. So you obviously are in a roller coaster world, right?
Yes.
And you've talked about being faithful in the midst of that. So here's one of the things, if you could kind of explain this to us a little bit for you personally. So how do you respond when it hits? I mean, there's got to be those moments where you go, oh, crud, oh, no, didn't see it coming. You get the adrenaline shot on the inside that's happening. How do you interrupt that? How does your faith interrupt that? How do you do it? How do you keep your heart from running down a bad path in those moments?
It's a great question. Before I forget, I do have 2 other principles I'd like to roll up. You just remind me of those that I'd like to say that have something to do with something else. All right, this year, guys, I was trying to de-risk a little bit. We had been risking in growth over the years, and so this was the year of just ultra liquidity. We had about $40 million in notes out that were going to mature, and that was going to come back liquid. We had another, $80 million in something that was coming back, and it was going to be liquid. And so we went into the year going, okay, how are we going to deploy all this capital that's coming in? What are we going to do with it? I just laugh thinking about that now. And then and then they raised the interest rates 5 times. And man, it just brought one of our wealthiest or our most lucrative platforms to a halt. I mean, so sometimes you can see it coming and it's there. But this one we're like, we never knew that it would go that high, that fast, and stop the world before we had those liquidity events. But they stopped them. So this one was, I told you last night about the stress. This one hit me harder than probably any of the others because it wasn't supposed to happen, and I was supposed to be mature enough. But we have a memorial on one of our tables full of rocks. And that was when we got falsely accused by HUD of something, and it took us like 5 years and millions of dollars to get out of. And then when we won that, we put that altar just when the Israelites crossed over the Jordan. He said, I want you to put up a pillar of stone so that all your children come back here and they can look at those stones and remember what I have done. I'd go look at those stones. Then we have another one. The SEC did the same thing after 2008. So many investors hollered and screamed to the SEC. They went through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boxes in every deal we've ever done and came away, no action, not one thing. And so we have a stone for that. And there's one last thing. When it really gets bad, and I haven't done that, but I'm going to do it tomorrow, we bring out and put lilies in the office. I have the secretary put lilies because look at the lilies of the field. Are not they clothed in more splendor than Solomon?
That's great. I love it. So you put actual physical reminders of God's
Yes.
presence and God's faithfulness, of his goodness in your path to interrupt you.
Yes.
And just keep that heart from running.
Yes.
I love that. That's
Yes.
good. Hey,
We have
Go ahead.
one associate rule, and that is we want to meet the needs of the associate. So if you come in and you say, hey, I just want to learn how to underwrite real estate. Well, hey, we got a cubicle back there, and we're going to put about 10 deals a day, and you can just load them in the model, and a year from now, you'll learn how to real estate. So they get to accomplish, go into the workplace, what they want to accomplish, and as a byproduct, our team gets a task field. So Paul says, put others before you, consider others before you. That has been our best deal ever. And then when it's time for them to mature and move on, we really want to help them do that and go on and be where they're, if it's somewhere else. Fortunately, we've got a really, really low departure rate. But that was the one rule. And we have one business rule. It was just aggressive service. So if you're young in the room today, man, if you'll just serve your client well, and this, I'll get one democratic capitalism line in. Okay, we live in a democratic capitalist society that's the best idea since civilization began. It really is. Democratic civilization has done more to feed the hungry, clothe the poor, and heal the sick than any other ministry organization on the planet ever. And it's all because of that American experience in 1777. All right? And so out of that, we have the ability just to provide somebody a better product or better service at a cheaper rate, right? That's the whole goal. Just provide your neighbor something that they want, lower cost than someone else with better service. We have no greater servant than the servant of all mankind who came out of heaven to serve us, and we have access to that throne room. So we as believers get to go into that throne room for him to pour into us. How can we serve our clients better? And so they don't have access to that. You have access to that. So there's no one that should be able to outserve you, be more creative than you, be more disciplined in your service to your client than a believer in Jesus Christ. So I just want to encourage you in that.
That's great. All right, before we break, got a question or two from the crowd? Anybody got a question for Brett? Anybody got something? Right over here. Yeah, go.
Brett, I've known you a long time, and you spoke today mostly about business, but I also know a lot of stuff you've done on the ministry side, and you've been pretty light on that, and it's kind of transformational, some things that you've done. I mean, I'm in awe by some of the things you've done. Can you share a little bit about that to the group so people know all the things that you've done with the ranch, and your gratitude and whatnot? Because I see you in a lot of the ministries I'm involved with, and you're an amazing guy. Can you share a little bit about
So he's asking Brett to share about some of the ministry things he's been involved with that's been.
We'll do that over fine tobacco product and a campfire. How about that? That'd be okay, Jay?
It's just a shame because it's
No, the Lord gave us opportunity. That circle of strength is not our purpose. Our purpose is that circle of love. It's just the means by which we get to build and store up treasures in heaven in God's eternal economy. Boy, I got democratic capitalism in God's eternal economy. I got it in. I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to. It was a layup. That was not a plant. But yeah, that's the purpose, the eternal kingdom. That's the purpose. And we get this incredible tool, democratic capitalism, to use to serve people and to create wealth and to give it away and bless people.
All right.
It's unbelievable.
Beautiful. Well, I got one final question for
Okay.
you. The crowd this big, there's always, we'll never know who it is by looking, but there's always a guy for whom the wheels are flying off right now. They're in the low spot. So what kind of coaching, what kind of counsel do you give to the guy, not business-wise, but life-wise, who's in that spot today and it's just flying apart and they need some hope?
You know, you just got to turn to the Word. It has authority over us. And he says, those who seek, find, those who ask, receive, and those who knock, the door is open. You do not have because you do not ask. Now go to the Lord. Say, I need you. Father, I need you in this. And if you don't know the Lord and you just heard about him, Say, if you're real, if the God of the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is real, show me. Show me. I genuinely want you to show me if you're real. And God will answer that call. You genuinely mean it.
That's awesome. Amen. Thank you. Awesome. How about a big thank you for Brett? Thank you, brother.
Democratic Party.